Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with author Robert Maddock about his captivating book, Operation Wappen. He merges his personal military experiences with a comprehensive history of warfare, providing an intimate insight into key military operations and changes in warfare strategy during the mid-20th century and beyond. We're delighted to have Bob join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Olympus Storyhouse for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Bob, thanks so much for being our guest today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
My pleasure. What motivated you to write this book?
Well, I started off writing a book, actually writing a 2-volume history called The 1300 Years War. And that got me interested in a lot of things. And then I decided to write about one of my own personal experiences as a combat Marine. And that's what prompted me to write Operation Wappen. Fortunately for me, I did not have to serve in a combat zone, even though I was sent to the Mediterranean. I managed to avoid it somehow, just I guess by luck. And a lot of things in warfare are luck. It's not common to have you suddenly serving where your skill sets really are. So you just have to be prepared for almost anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what I always say, if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. But I'm glad you had some some good luck serving in the armed forces. What was Operation Wappen for the folks at home? Why don't you explain that?
Operation Wappen was a military landing planned for Syria. Syria, of course, is in the news all the time right now, but back then it wasn't. And it was the same year that Sputnik was up flying around above us. So that made it all more interesting. We were shipped out of Morehead City, which is where many Marine Corps expeditions form up, sailed across the Atlantic through the Straits of Gibraltar, and then went on clear to Athens. We also stopped at Palermo and places like that. So we got a good view of things. When we got to Turkey, we were in European Turkey, which is less well known really than Asiatic Turkey. But that is that's just before you get to Constantinople or Istanbul, and we were actually camped out at Gallipoli, and Gallipoli will be very familiar to anybody who knows their World War I history. From Gallipoli, we were transferred by helicopter to an area of European Turkey, which bordered on Grecian Turkey. It was just south of it was just south of the sea, the big sea.
Yeah.
I'll get it in a moment. And we were just north of the Mediterranean, just off of Soros Gulf, which is very close to European Turkey. We were taken by helicopter to a hillside in European Turkey. Was there for about a week, trying to make communications with the various ships in the Mediterranean, trying to perform landings for the Allied forces of Europe. It was a big deal as far as lots of brass and so on. For us, it was kind of a routine thing because we'd been planning for this for months. mainly out of North Carolina and Virginia. And so we were well prepared to do the helicopter landing. Now, this kind of helicopter landing has never been done before. Of course, during my mind is going blank on me here, so you'll have to wait till I can find it. At any
No
rate,
worries.
during the Vietnam War,
Yeah.
helicopter landings were quite common, and they were all patterned after the one that we had performed for the NATO generals and admirals during Operation Deepwater. And so I'm very much familiar with this kind of warfare. We had to perform it for the first time, and of course, you always get a few glitches, but fortunately, we really didn't have very many at all. And so we returned home safely, and from that time on, I was discharged from the Marine Corps and then went to medical school and got my medical degree, then came out to Utah after for my internship and residency program. Did part of it actually back in Cleveland, Ohio, at Case Western Reserve, and then returned to Utah. And I've been here ever since.
Wow.
Very beautiful place. And the climate is wonderful. Yeah. We're at about 7,000 feet elevation. Yeah. And so when you see all the horrible weather, the horrible hot weather that's going on right now in Phoenix, Arizona, that's about 1,000 miles to the south of us.
Right.
And we're at approximately 5,000 feet elevation, whereas Phoenix, Arizona is very close to sea level.
Yeah.
So it's an entirely different climate.
Absolutely.
Very much nicer. And I can look out my kitchen window at the mountains. There's the Wasatch Mountains that we can see that way. I can also see mountains to the west of us if I go out and travel around in the city. At any rate, that kind of puts me in the geography that people might want to know about.
Exactly. It's a beautiful spot, that's for sure. Love Salt Lake and the surrounding area. Great climate, like you said, great people, and gorgeous landscape. Tell us a little bit what it was like working under the leadership of Colonel Austin C. Shifty Shofner.
Shofner?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a Marine, and it was very, very interesting. After he had finished giving us a report on what we were about to face in Syria, he asked the questions, and I was probably the most junior officer in there. I was a second lieutenant, newly minted, and I was the only one that had a question. So I put up my hand and I said, Colonel Shofner, what are we going to shoot at them? A logical question. I'm an artillery forward observer for this. And I still didn't know what ammunition we were going to be using. And of course, we were aboard a cruiser, and they have 10-inch guns. Mm-hmm. And then we had an LST, which was full of heavy equipment. We had also had an LSD at the landing ship dock, which was also full of our equipment. In fact, it was full of our artillery. Mm. And it could all be fired from the open deck of the LSD. It was a little bit unusual, but it was possible. And so I asked them, well, sir, what are we going to shoot at them? They hadn't told us what the ammunition was going to be. Mm. And the colonel said, Lieutenant, I said, yes, sir. He said, can you see through the back? Can you see through the porthole looking out on the stern of this ship? Well, it was the stern of a heavy cruiser. and on the back was a crane with a seaplane attached to it. And I'm sure many people have seen pictures that show such ship. At any rate, I said, yes, sir. But sir, what are we going to shoot at them? He said, tomorrow morning at about 500 hours, you're going to be on that plane. That plane out there in the back on the stern of that ship. I said, yes, sir. He said, you're going to be on that plane with the pilot. You're going to take off. You're going to fly over the Syrian coast. You're going to find the center of the Syrian army. You're going to write its map coordinates down, and you're going to radio those map coordinates back to us, and then get the you-know-what out of there. And I said, yes, sir.
Yeah.
But sir, what are we going to shoot at them? Still hadn't answered.
Amazing.
And this absolutely floored everybody in that room. We've got 50 nukes in the hold.
Mm.
I thought, what? We're going to be firing nuclear shells? He said, yes. You have 50 nuclear shells in the hold.
Amazing.
And I thought to myself, well, the closest ammo ship is 3 days away.
Mm.
And I pointed that out to him. And I said, are we going to use those weapons? And he said, that's right. And that ended the meeting. I went back to my ship, which was the USS Homestead, which was a troop transport, and had a good night's sleep and woke up at about, I was supposed to be wakened at 5 o'clock in the morning so I could get back to the USS Albany, which was the cruiser we were on, and then get on that seaplane and travel over the Syrian coast and get the center coordinates of the Syrian army, and then get the you-know-what out of there.
Yeah.
So I got up, and as I got up, I noticed in my watch it was 7 o'clock in the morning. I was supposed to have been awakened at 5. And I thought, what on earth is going on here? And I could feel the ship was moving. So I got out of my bunk, which was on the first deck. There's an officer's country on the first deck, and I opened up the door or the hatchway and looked out, and we were making a flank speed headed west. We were heading away from Syria. And I thought to myself, what on earth is going on here? This was not in the plan. And so I got back in my bunk and went to sleep until about 7 o'clock in the morning and got up and went out on deck. I was supposed to be officer of the deck that day. And so I reported for duty at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I said, what's going on? We're supposed to be making a landing. It's not anymore. The boss just changed the rules. Well, you know who the boss was?
No.
President Dwight Eisenhower.
Wow. Amazing.
And I was lucky.
Mm.
I had a commander-in-chief who was an honest-to-God and commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
And knew what he was doing. So I didn't worry about it. I just thought, well, okay, plans change. Fine,
right.
We'll live with it. And we headed for Athens, and then we sailed away from Athens and headed for Crete.
Mm.
And we were supposed to go near Cyprus. Well, I don't know if you know about Cyprus, but Cyprus is a very dangerous island.
Mm.
They do a lot of mining there, and the mining is dangerous.
Right.
Not the people, it's not the island itself, or the sea, or anything else. It's the metals on that island
right.
that are seriously dangerous. They include mercury and a lot of other metals that are deadly poisonous.
Mm.
And so we were headed back towards Syria, And eventually, after being landed for about a week in European Turkey, just below the Black Sea and above Saros Gulf of the Mediterranean Sea, they finally came along, picked us up, and our operation was over.
Amazing.
Just as quick as it started.
Exactly.
And we went back to our camps in Gallipoli, and we were invited to attend an officers' club dinner. And we had no clothing fit to go to a dinner like that.
Right.
All we had were fatigues. And several of us pointed it out to the people. We can't go to a formal dinner party in fatigues.
Right.
They got any uniforms for us? No, you're going to go in fatigues.
Huh.
And so we thought, oh, okay, we'll go in fatigues.
Amazing.
At any rate, we got there, and there were all kinds of people wanting to ask questions because they'd observed this helicopter landing. They'd never seen a helicopter landing of troops before.
Yeah.
It had never been done before, except we've done them before for practice out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And then I spent some time up at Little Creek, Virginia, which is where the amphib force or amphib fleet is. And so we had spent some time doing that, but we'd never before done a landing like this. At any rate, we all showed up in fatigues at this formal dinner party.
Amazing.
And we had all kinds of interesting things happen. They asked us to take some booze back to the troops, and the only place I had to put booze was down my pant leg. They were bloused in issue shoes,
Right.
and so I could hold 3 or 4 pints of liquor
Amazing.
in one pant leg. And I had three pints of liquor in each pant leg. So you can imagine what I looked like going to this
So
formal
funny.
dinner party.
Yeah.
With this booze stuffed in my pant legs.
You must have been walking kind of funny.
Yeah, we sure were. And it wasn't long before some people noticed that we didn't look straight.
That's so funny.
And they were wondering what we had hidden in our pant legs.
Amazing.
And we told them. And they said, you need some more to take back to the troop.
Amazing.
And we said, sure. And so I picked up another 2 or 3 bottles, or another 2 or 3 fifths of liquor,
Right.
which I shoved into my pants, and they went down to the blousing point above the shoes, and there they sat.
Amazing.
And we got back to the camp and pulled all the booze out and handed it out to the troops, and boy, were they happy to see that.
I was going to say, you came back like a conquering hero with all that booze in your pants. That's for sure. Amazing.
We went from there down to Crete, and then we went from there back up to the Syrian coast, and then from there we went to Sicily, and from there we went for a landing about 30 miles south of Rome, and we had a landing there, and then we went back to the ship, and from Sicily we went to Barcelona, and saw the new cathedral that was being built. From what I understand, it's still being built.
Yeah.
And from there we went to Gibraltar, and I actually had 4 hours on Gibraltar.
Amazing.
Which was a little bit unusual for anybody in those days.
Yeah.
Because Gibraltar was a very secret place.
Right.
And they landed us at the docks, and we had 4 hours ashore, and we visited a lot of places inside Gibraltar, came back down aboard ship, and then sailed across the Atlantic back to Morehead City and disembarked.
Nice.
And that was the extent of the operation.
Well, that sounds like an amazing operation. It sounds
It was, and of course nobody ever heard about it.
right.
It was super secret at the time, and of course we couldn't talk about it and didn't. And on occasion we would have some later on when things weren't quite so secret. We went on marches during the night and during the daytime through the North Carolina woods and South Carolina woods. And the Harris Island is in South Carolina. We never got there, but that's where the enlisted men are, and that's where they train. So it was quite interesting for me to. I was living in Norfolk, Virginia at the time. My father was in the public health service, and he was stationed there, and so that's where my home was. And so when we got back to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, all I had to do was borrow a car and drive up to see my folks.
Wow.
And it was while I was coming back one day. This time I was on a train. I looked out the window and looked at me in my uniform and thought to myself, "Is this all I can do with a bachelor's degree?"
That's funny. It sounds like you're living the life of Riley there. You know, you're spending time in Gibraltar, you're in Barcelona.
Too realistic for it.
Yeah.
When we went on night marches, believe me, they were night marches. They began at 9 o'clock at night and ended at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Amazing.
And it was through swampy and creek beds.
God.
By the time we got done, we were soaked.
Yeah.
One day I went into our bathroom, and guess what was sitting on one of the
thrones there?
Oh, it was a bench.
Okay. I'd imagine it was a rat.
Sitting on the bench was a fox.
Oh,
I'm
geez.
just kidding you.
Oh, wow.
A fox.
Amazing.
In fact, I even have a picture of this.
Amazing.
And I can provide the picture for you if you want it, but it'll take a little bit of doing. I've got it in my yearbook from the Marine Corps.
Amazing.
For that particular year. I'll tell you, it was. We were not at Camp Lejeune. We were north of there at Camp Upshur, which I'm not sure is even there anymore.
Yeah.
But that's where we were stationed, was at Camp Upshur.
Amazing. How many years did you?
UPSURE.
How many years?
Where the fox was on the bench in the John.
How many years did you wind up serving? How many years did you wind up serving in the military, sir?
What's that?
How many years did you wind up serving in the military?
Oh, I wound up with 2 years of active duty and 9 years total.
Wow. And then medical school after that?
Medical school during that period.
Okay.
As soon as I got out, as soon as I was released from active duty, I was free to go to medical school. And as soon as I joined medical school, of course, my rank changed. I was no longer in the Marine Corps, except that I was on loan from the Navy.
Gotcha.
And the Navy, see, the Marine Corps has no commissioned officers in the medical services. They use only Navy officers.
Gotcha. Amazing.
And so So I was suddenly in the Navy, and one of my best friends had been a navigator in the Navy, based out of oh golly, what's the name of the naval base? It's just south of San Francisco.
Camp Pendleton. No?
No, that's way south.
Okay.
It's a naval air station.
Gotcha. The name escapes me as well.
And it's close to Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
And so my buddy had served in the naval aviation business as a navigator.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a wonderful story to tell. They were on their way. They had been on their way from, the Naval Air Station just across the bay from San Francisco, all the way to New Delhi, India.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way back from New Delhi, they were in the middle of the Pacific, and my buddy said, it would be good if I took a regular sighting from the bubble at the top of our plane, from the navigator's bubble, because he was a navigator.
Yep.
He got up there, and he looked out of the bubble, and guess what he saw, big as hell? The Southern Cross.
Wow.
You can't see that north of the equator.
Amazing.
That plane was 1,500 miles off course.
Amazing.
Headed straight across the Pacific Ocean with enough gas to go 500 miles.
Amazing.
So they immediately turned left and headed for Hawaii.
Always a good move. Always a good move.
Fortunately, they made it with just enough gas to turn the plane off.
Amazing.
And they spent the night there, refueled, and went on to California the next day.
Amazing.
But he said if he hadn't have taken that sighting, they'd have ditched in the sea 1,500 miles from the closest port.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. There, but for the grace of God. Yeah.
Stories like this.
Yeah.
When you're in the service.
Yep.
Fortunately, that kind of stuff didn't happen to me, but it sure happened to one of my friends in medical school.
Right.
And so, at any rate, that's another little piece of militaria, if you will.
Absolutely.
That,
well, you've captured.
People don't even think it's going to happen, but it can happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And now we have a little bit of a different commander-in-chief in charge than Eisenhower. So you might be second guess. You might be.
Don't you know what my advice is to all of my kids who are military service age?
What's that?
Don't join.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because they don't have your back.
And a lot of them, by the way, my wife is Finnish.
Mm-hmm.
That's why her last name is Pankinen.
Mm-hmm.
And she is the illustrator of my book.
Ah, okay.
She's an excellent illustrator, by the way.
Yeah.
All of the drawings and pictures in the book that are not photographs are done by her.
Amazing. No, she does wonderful.
She's got over 100 pictures in Operation, or rather in the 1300 Years War.
Amazing. Amazing.
And a lot of them are in Operation Wappen as well.
Yeah.
But if you look at the bottom, it'll say illustrated by Raya Pankinen.
Gotcha.
My wife.
Wonderful. Well, Bob, I could talk to you all day, but we actually are running out of time. But your stories are incredible. We're so happy that you capture them in your books, including Operation Wappen. It is quite a tale you tell. It is a history lesson as well, and is very foretelling about what could happen in the future as well. So it's a great book. It is highly recommended.
There is some, but you have to have had some experiences like this to be able to dope them out.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we appreciate your time. And for the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford. Thanking you for your time. Until next time on Spotlight.
Thank you so much. And this is Robert Maddock signing off.